Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm Elizabeth Holmes. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone listening. If you traveled before Thanksgiving or if you're traveling after Thanksgiving, you'll likely see some of the busyness that everyone has been talking about. The FAA said that this would likely be the busiest Thanksgiving travel period that we've seen in 15 years. On Tuesday, November 25th, that was the peak travel day leading up to Thanksgiving. There were more than 52,000 flights. So to put that in perspective, we wanted to see what things looked like here closer to home at Raleigh-Durham International Airport. So we called WRAL's Keely Arthur. She was there the Wednesday before Thanksgiving to check in and see how things are going, and then to find out what people need to know if they are traveling around this season. I guess we'll just go ahead and start, and I'll just say thank you for doing this and chatting with us today.
All right. Yeah. So happy to be here. I feel like, this is the obligatory 5 on your side story every year before Thanksgiving.
Exactly. So I know that you're calling us from RDU. What has it been like today?
I am. I feel like I'm in the twilight zone. So I cover airport travel a lot, especially with the government shutdown, ending fairly recently. And then in the summer, we have a very busy travel season then. And I say all that to give you a sense of, I feel like I'm here a lot. And usually it's so busy in the parking garage, we have a hard time even finding a spot. I mean, I've driven around for like 30 minutes looking for a spot with my photographer before. That is not happening today. We found a spot immediately. And when I walked in, it kind of looked like a normal day. So we got here around 3 p.m. Things seem like they're picking up a little bit, but, just looking at the security lines, it really doesn't look like the chaotic scene before Thanksgiving that you see in the movies or we've seen in, other previous years. So I think the thing about the flight travel, yes, it's going to be really busy, but 90% of people traveling are traveling via roadways. So it's busy flying, but, most people are on the roads. But in terms of flights, last year there were about 6 million flights between Wednesday, so today, the day before Thanksgiving. I know we're airing this tomorrow. So the day before Thanksgiving through December 1st, Monday. So in that same time frame, there were 6 million last year. This year, they're expecting 1.6 million more people to fly. So it is busier, but things are running smoothly. These are not people showing up who don't have tickets. Everything's booked. And so if things are moving like the well-oiled machine it appears to be right now, we should be okay. And I say, well-oiled machine because everything is super interconnected and checking. There's about 30 delays, 0 cancellations at RDU. I just checked FlightAware. And then overall, you're seeing, I think, maybe in the 700s in terms of, cancellations. But it's really nationwide, but it's really not more than something you would see on a typical travel day.
Gotcha. Do you think that the recent government shutdown has maybe contributed to any of kind of the smoothness that we're seeing now? I feel like it was just chaos for like the whole month of October. So this,
in a weird way, yeah, like maybe it has, because I don't know, when something bad happens and then you kind of like overcorrect. Like if you get sick and then you're like, I'm going to just wash my hands way more than I ever do and way longer. I feel like there may be some of that here where people are like, I'm going to get to the airport earlier. I'm going to pick a different flight. I'm going to, I don't want to fly on Wednesday. I don't want to risk it. So I'm going to fly earlier, or I'm going to fly on Thanksgiving, because we know traveling on holidays is, quieter than the days preceding it or following it. So I think in a weird way, there may be a little bit of that, like a collective, let's be cautious, let's kind of get our minds right to endure this. And that maybe is what is making things a little bit smoother.
Obviously, people are traveling before Thanksgiving. This podcast is going to air on Thanksgiving. So for people who are listening to it, maybe they're listening to it in the days following between when they, leave to come to maybe a family member's house and then leave to go back home. What is maybe some things that people can be aware of when, the weekend comes and maybe they are traveling back to their original location? Is there something that they need to kind of be looking out for?
Well, I think if you're driving, it's not a good idea to leave afternoon. Leave really early in the morning if you want to go back on Sunday, or even later in the day or Monday. So for driving, try to avoid those peak hours, and AAA is really good about laying out when those hours are, and it really changes day by day in the next few days. If you're flying, we've interviewed people who tried to book the earliest flights out, which, sounds not that enjoyable. But what it does is it's a domino effect. So if you get out on the first flight, your odds of getting, having to deal with cancellations or delays because of other things happening in other parts of the country, is way less of a concern. So, people's flights are probably already booked at this point, but if for some reason you run into cancellations or delays, my best piece of advice there is download the airline's app. You're going to get the most up-to-date information on delays. In fact, I've been at the airport before where I've gotten delayed, and I'll see it on the app before it's even updated on the board at the airport. So if you're in a situation like that and you can just deal with the delay, that's fine. If your flight is canceled or it's a really long delay and you're given the option to reschedule, which usually you are, if you can do it on the app quickly, do it, because everybody else is getting that alert at the same time as you, and they're going to also want to try to reschedule their flight or, pick a better time to go. If you don't want to deal with the app, walk very quickly to the gate agent. They're going to have the most access to alternative flights and times than really anybody else, because they're able to look at other airlines. So just, be persistent and try to be proactive if you're in a bind like that. But so far, we're not in a situation where we're seeing widespread cancellations or delays.
That's some positive news for sure.
I know. I love it.
Heading into all of this. I know that you've also done some reporting, and you have just kind of touched on this a little bit, but I think it's really important to remind people maybe what their rights are if, there is some crazy weather. Like I know in the Midwest, there might be some snow, and that might derail some plans for folks. Is there anything really important that you think people should know when it comes to how to handle cancellations, or some important things to remember maybe when they are talking to that agent or trying to make sure that they don't lose out on a lot of money?
The bad news is if it's a weather-specific delay or cancellation, you're really not owed anything because it's out of the airline's hands. If it's something like, a mechanical issue or crew issue, that would be something where more rights would kick in to a consumer. But if it's weather, you're really at the mercy of the airline and whatever you signed up for. So I know it's more expensive, but don't get the basic economy ticket, because you might have change fees. It's going to be really much more difficult to get on the app or talk to a gate agent and just get your flight changed. As far as your rights go, if it's a non-weather event, the Department of Transportation has had ramped up its consumer protections. Now, under the Trump administration, they're kind of doing away with at least some of the proposed policies. And the Trump administration says, well, we're doing that because we don't want to put more stress on airlines, because if we put more stress, more restrictions, more parameters on what they must do, then that's going to raise ticket prices overall and be bad for the consumer overall. But that also means that the average consumer, if they're just dealing with a situation, whether it's weather or not, they may not be, may not have the rights that they would have had previously, or the ones that they would have had in future proposals. So my best advice, it really is case by case on airlines at this point, but go on the DOT's website, go and really familiarize yourself with your airline's policy and what your rights are in weather versus non-weather delays or cancellations.
Okay. Is there anything else that we didn't talk about that you think is important for people to know as they hit the road or start flying somewhere? Anything else that we didn't touch on?
I always just get so nervous with driving. So many people are on the road, so just be so safe, because it is statistically speaking, it's a very dangerous time to be on the roads. And then for flying, my biggest piece of advice, because I've seen it work for me, is really change quickly on the app, or go straight to the gate agent if you need to, if something's going haywire with your flight. And talk to your spouse, your family, create a game plan ahead of time, because you don't want to waste minutes going, okay, well, there's another flight out in 4 hours, like, should we take it? Like, have that discussion ahead of time. Okay, so our flight's been delayed or canceled, and they're offering this, or if they offer this, what should we say? And then you'll be able to act on it a lot faster. I've missed out on getting onto the next flight because, my family and I are trying to game plan what to do. So have those discussions ahead of time. Another thing, we talked to somebody this morning who missed their flight because they checked their bag too late. So you cannot get to the air. If you're checking a bag, do not get to the airport an hour ahead of time. I'm looking right now, the check bag area for United. I mean, it doesn't look busy, but that takes 20 minutes. So you need to get there ahead of time. A lot of airlines, all airlines have a 45 or 1 hour cutoff time. So if you're checking a bag, especially, get here early, even earlier than you think.
Okay. Well, thanks for giving us all these great tips. And I hope you have a good Thanksgiving, too. Thanks for doing this.
Oh, my gosh. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. And yes, I hope this is useful for people. Sometimes for me, I've been saying this advice so often, I feel like it's redundant. But, I learned this stuff through my own reporting, and it really has helped me out. And I am not the most organized traveler. So I really try to give people advice for any situation, and I hope this is helpful.
Yeah, it definitely is. It definitely is. All right, well, I'll let you get back to work. Thanks so much for doing this. And thank you for listening. If you've listened to this podcast on WRAL.com, remember you can listen anywhere you get your podcasts. That includes Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Be sure to follow the show so you don't miss an episode, and have a happy Thanksgiving.